I want to show you a crime scene. There is a single dot of light on a screen in front of me, just one little flash, where one electron landed a moment ago. And I want to ask you something that sounds almost too simple to bother with. Before that electron hit the screen, where was it? It landed somewhere. A thing that lands somewhere had to come from somewhere. It had a path. It had a position. It had a little history of where it had been. So tell me, where was it? Here is the trouble. When I actually go looking, when I set up my equipment to catch the electron in the act and find out where it truly was, the dots on the screen rearrange themselves. The whole picture changes. It is as if the electron felt me watching, as if my question reached back and edited the answer. I have spent a good part of my life sitting with this little puzzle, and I am telling you it does not go away. So let us treat it the way a detective would. Let us find out what this electron is actually up to. Before we chase anything strange, we ought to know what ordinary things look like, because the way you catch a liar is to first get very clear on how honest things behave. So forget electrons for a minute. Picture a wall with two narrow slits cut into it, two gaps side by side. And picture me standing back with a machine gun. Not a good one. It sprays bullets a little wild, in every direction. Some go through the left slit, some through the right. And behind the wall there is a thick bank of sand to catch them. I count where they pile up. What do I get? 2 piles. One behind the left slit, one behind the right, blurring together a bit in the middle. Each bullet went through one hole or the other and buried itself in the sand. If I cover the right slit, the right pile vanishes and the left pile does not change one bit. Nothing mysterious. Bullets are lumps. They arrive one at a time, in one place. That is one kind of thing the world is made of. Now drain the sand away and flood the whole room with water, up to the slits. Same wall, same 2 gaps. But now I make waves. I bob a paddle up and down in front of the wall, and ripples roll out and reach the 2 slits. Each slit becomes a fresh little source of ripples on the far side, and those 2 families of ripples spread out and run straight into each other. And water does something here that bullets never do. Where a crest from one slit meets a crest from the other, they pile up into a taller crest. But where a crest meets a trough, they cancel, and the water goes flat. Dead calm. So along my far wall, I do not measure 2 simple piles. I measure stripes. Lots of motion here, none at all there, lots again over here, in a regular banded pattern. We call it interference, and it is the unmistakable signature of a wave, of something spread out that goes through both slits at once and meets itself coming out. So the world has sorted itself into 2 tidy boxes. Bullets make 2 piles. Waves make stripes, lumps, or ripples. Clean and simple, and you could believe everything fits in one box or the other. So let us bring in the electron and see which box it belongs in. I take a little gun that fires electrons. I aim it at the same wall with 2 slits, and behind the wall I set a screen that flashes wherever an electron lands. I switch it on, and the very first thing I see seems to settle the case. Every electron arrives as a single dot, one flash, a clean little tick on the screen. I never see half a flash. I never see a smear. Each one strikes a single spot, whole and complete, exactly the way a bullet thumps into sand. So electrons are lumps. Done, but I am a patient man, and I let the gun keep running. Flash, 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 hundreds of them, thousands. And slowly, out of all these separate little lumps, a shape gathers on the screen. And the shape is stripes, bands of many dots, then bands with almost none, then many again. The interference pattern, the fingerprint of a wave. So I am left holding 2 facts that have no business sharing a room. Each electron lands as a hard single lump, in one place, like a bullet. Yet where all the lumps choose to land spells out the stripes of a wave. A lump when it arrives, a wave in where it goes. That cannot be right. Lumps do not make stripes. My first guess is the reasonable one. There must be a crowd problem. I am firing a great many electrons, and perhaps they are knocking into one another on the way through. Shoving, clipping. Two electrons graze near the slits, veer off, and all that bumping, repeated across thousands of shots, fakes up a striped pattern out of nothing but traffic. That I can test. I turn the gun down, far down, so low that it fires one electron every few seconds, so slow that by the time the second one leaves the barrel, the first has already landed and is long gone. There is never more than a single electron inside the machine at any moment. No crowd. Nobody to bump into. I let it run, and it takes a long while. Flash, wait. Flash, wait. And when all the dots are finally in, I look. Stripes, the same stripes as before. So it was never about electrons colliding, because there was only ever one in there at a time. Each lone electron, crossing entirely by itself, builds the wave pattern on its own, which forces a sentence out of me that I do not want to say. Each single electron is somehow interfering with itself. Let me say carefully what sort of wave this even is, because it is nothing like what you would picture. When water makes stripes, real stuff is moving. The water heaves up and down. There is a sea to do the waving. But one electron, going through alone, is a single lump, and there is no sea of electrons for it to slosh around in. So what is waving? The answer is one of the strangest sentences in all of physics. What waves is chance itself. For every spot on that screen there is a kind of wave that decides how likely the electron is to land there. Where the wave is strong, electrons land often. Where the wave cancels itself out, they almost never land. The path through the left slit and the path through the right each carry their own wave of possibility, and those two possibilities add and cancel exactly the way ripples do. The electron is not surfing along on top of a wave like a swimmer on the ocean. The electron is one dot. The wave is the wave of where that dot might turn up. And when both slits are open and nobody is watching, both possibilities are alive at the same time, and they interfere. That is the thing you cannot draw a picture of, and you may as well stop trying, because there is no little movie that runs in your head that will get it right, and it crawls right under your skin because you want to grab the electron and interrogate it. You want to say, look here, you are one little thing, so which way did you go, through the left or through the right? You had to pick one. And the stripes are the electron's reply, and the reply is maddening, because the stripes only appear if something went through both. One whole, single, indivisible electron, passing through two separate openings at the same instant, and meeting itself on the other side. Every instinct you have rises up against that sentence. Good. Hang on to that feeling. We are going to try to corner this thing and make it confess. There is one plain move left to make. If each electron is doing something at both slits, then I will catch it in the act. I will watch for one single electron, which slit it actually passes through. So I set a lamp just behind the wall, in between the two openings, arranged so that when an electron slips through a slit, it scatters a flash of light I can see. A flash on the left, it went left. A flash on the right, it went right. Beautifully direct. Now I will run the whole thing again, and this time I will know for every single electron exactly which hole it took. And I will finally catch this creature in the act of being in two places at once. So I light my little lamp, I fire the electrons one at a time, and I watch. Flash, left. Flash, right. Right, right, right. Left. Every electron, plain as morning, goes through one slit and one slit only. Never both. Never a half. Always one definite hole. Good. So now I have my which-way answer for every electron that crossed. And I turn to look at the pattern they painted on the screen. The stripes are gone. Vanished. What sits there now is two simple piles, one behind each slit, just like the bullets in the sand. The interference has packed up and left. The instant I could tell which slit each electron took, the electron quit acting like a wave and went back to being a plain lump. So, being a suspicious sort, I blow out the lamp. I change nothing else. Same gun, same slits, same screen. I simply stop looking. I run it again. The stripes come back. I light the lamp. Stripes gone. 2 piles. Out goes the lamp. Stripes return. I can sit there and flip the wave nature of the electron on and off like a switch on the wall, purely by choosing whether or not I find out which way it went. The looking is doing something. The question is part of the experiment. I have no taste for spooky talk, and there is a perfectly earthbound explanation sitting right in front of me, so let us give it a fair hearing. Light is not nothing. Light carries a punch. When my lamp throws a flash at a tiny electron to spot it, that flash gives the electron a kick. It is like hunting for a soap bubble in a dark room by throwing tennis balls. Sure, when a ball comes bouncing back, you learn where the bubble was, but you also just popped it. So maybe my lamp is simply too rough. The light is bullying the electrons, knocking them off their delicate course, and that clumsy shove is what smears the stripes away. If that is the trouble, the cure is easy. Use a gentler light. So I turn the lamp down, dimmer and softer. But dimming a light does something sneaky. It does not weaken each flash, it just sends fewer of them. So now some electrons get spotted and some slip past me in the dark, unseen. And when I check the screen, the split is perfect. Every electron I caught went into the 2 piles. Every electron I missed kept its stripes. Seeing it, even once, was enough to kill the wave. That did not rescue me, so I reach for another move. Instead of fewer flashes, let me make each flash itself softer. The way you gentle a photon's kick is to stretch its wavelength, to use redder, longer, lazier light, because long waves carry less of a punch. So I do exactly that. I use light so mild it barely brushes the electron at all. And surely now I can see which slit it took without shoving it off course. But nature has laid a trap, and it is a clever one. When you look at anything by light, you can only make out details larger than the wavelength of that light. Long, lazy waves are blurry. They cannot resolve fine things. And by the time I have stretched my light gentle enough that it no longer disturbs the electron, its wavelength has grown so long, so smeared, that I can no longer tell the 2 slits apart. The flash I catch is a blur that might have come from either hole. I win my gentleness and I lose my information in the very same stroke. The moment the light is sharp enough to tell left from right, it is hard enough to wreck the stripes. The moment it is soft enough to spare the stripes, it is too blurry to tell me a thing. I cannot have both at once. I try every trick, every clever lamp I can build, and the verdict never changes. You may know which slit, or you may keep the interference, never the 2 together. It is not that my hands are clumsy. It is that the universe refuses to hand over the whole story at once. Sit with that, because it runs deeper than it first appears. I kept assuming the villain was the rough touch of the light, the physical kick. But that is not quite the heart of it. The thing that truly decides whether the stripes appear is not how hard I jostle the electron. It is whether the answer to which slit gets recorded anywhere in the world at all. If the information about the path exists out there, printed into some flash, some click, some mark on something, even if not one living soul ever reads it, the stripes are gone. And if that information genuinely exists nowhere, not in any flash, not in any record, not even in principle, then the stripes are there. The electron seems to care about a single thing above all others, not whether you are clumsy, not whether you are awake or conscious, only whether the question, which path did you take, has an answer somewhere in the world. When the answer exists, the electron is a lump that took one road. When the answer does not exist, the electron is a wave that took both. And that drives me toward a thought I find genuinely uncomfortable. Perhaps, when nobody and nothing holds the answer, there simply is no answer yet. Perhaps the electron did not take a secret path I was too clumsy to uncover. Perhaps there was no path there to uncover. That is a wild thing to say, and I would be a poor scientist to swallow it without a fight. Because there is a calm, sober, sensible alternative, and most people land on it the first moment they hear all this. They say, look, of course the electron went through one definite slit. It always did. The electron knew which way it went, even if you did not. Your stripes and your switches only prove that your instruments are too crude to follow it without ruining it. The randomness lives in your ignorance, not in the world. It is like a coin spinning under a cup. While it is hidden, you talk about a 50-50 chance, but that is only talk. Under the cup, the coin is already heads, or already tails. It has a definite answer the entire time. You simply have not looked. So the electron, they say, is a coin under a cup. It carries its real answer in its pocket for the whole trip, and quantum mechanics is just our best fumbling in the dark. It is a beautiful idea. Einstein himself loved it. He could not stomach the thought that nature left anything truly undecided. He said God does not play dice. And for a long while this looked like nothing but a matter of taste, the sort of thing two physicists argue over at dinner and never settle. Because how on earth could you ever test what the coin is doing while it sits hidden under the cup? And then a quiet, careful man named John Bell did something that should have stopped the whole world in its tracks. He found a way to test it. He found a way to reach under the cup without lifting it. The trick is this, and I will keep it plain, because the idea matters far more than the arithmetic. You do not study one particle. You make a pair. You take two particles born together from a single event, twins, and you fire them off in opposite directions, far apart, across the room, across the building, as far as you please. Then you measure something about each one on its own, and you compare the two answers. Now hold the two stories side by side. In the coin under the cup story, each particle left home carrying a full set of predetermined answers in its pocket, fixed at the moment of birth. If that is so, Bell proved something sharp. When you tally how often the twins agree, across many different ways of measuring them, the amount of agreement can never climb past a certain ceiling. There is a hard limit baked in. The predetermined story makes a promise, and the promise is a number you are not allowed to exceed. But in the quantum story, where the answers are not fixed until the measurement happens, the twins are permitted to agree more often than that. They are allowed to smash straight through the ceiling. So this is no longer philosophy. It is no longer a matter of taste. The two stories cough up different numbers. One says you stay below the line, the other says you cross it. All anyone has to do is run the thing and count. Think of it like two students hauled into separate rooms and quizzed apart, with no way to signal each other. If they cooked up their answers in advance, memorized the same cheat sheet before they were split up, then there is only so often their answers can match across a long string of surprise questions. You can work out, on paper, the very most that any shared cheat sheet could ever manage. But if the two had no cheat sheet, and somehow each answer only came into being at the instant the question was asked, you can get more matching than any cheat sheet would ever allow. The quantum twins behave like students with no cheat sheet. They matched too often. There was no sheet in their pockets. There was nothing written down in advance. So they ran it. They have run it many times over, more and more carefully, sealing off every loophole anyone could dream up. And the answer is not the least bit subtle. The ceiling breaks. The particles agree more often than any coin under the cup story could ever permit. Nature comes down, plainly and over, on the side of the quantum story, which means the cozy old picture is simply wrong. The electron is not just carrying its true answer in its pocket, waiting for you to peek. At least, not in any way that respects the sensible rule that things far apart cannot instantly reach across and touch each other. You can still try to save the hidden answer, but only by paying a dreadful price. You must allow one twin, the very instant you measure it, to send word across any distance, faster than light, telling its partner what to be. Einstein hated that even more than he hated the dice. So you are cornered, with no comfortable way out. Either the answers are not there until you ask for them, or the universe is laced together by invisible threads that snap taut across any gulf in no time at all. Take your pick. But the snug old world where every little thing sits quietly being itself with a definite answer, whether you look or not, that world is finished. The experiments buried it. Back to our crime scene then, and that one little dot on the screen. Where was the electron before it landed? The honest answer, the one the experiments are pressing on us, is stranger and humbler than any answer I had hoped to give you. The electron did not have a secret position that I was merely too clumsy to find. For the things we have not measured, there may be no fact yet at all, no answer sitting quietly in the dark. The act of asking, of measuring, of forcing the world to flash one definite signal is part of how the definite answer comes to be in the first place. The title I hung over all this was a tease, but it points at something real. It is not that the particle is nothing before you look. It is that some of its features, which slit exactly where, are not lying in wait for you as settled facts. They get settled in the asking. Here is a way to feel it in your own bones. Suppose I ask you, what is your favorite number between 1 and 10? Before I asked, was the answer already sitting there in your head, fixed and final, just waiting for me? Maybe not. Maybe you had no favorite at all until the question forced you to land on one. The question did not dig up a hidden answer. The question made the answer. I am not telling you the electron thinks, or chooses, or has a little mind of its own. I am telling you that the world, at its very smallest, might behave a touch more like that question than like a coin under a cup. Some things are not answers in hiding. They are answers in waiting, and the measurement is the moment they finally land. I owe you some plain honesty here, because I would be lying if I dressed this up. The mathematics of all this is flawless. We can predict what these tiny things will do to a precision that would empty your head more decimal places than you would ever have use for, and it never once fails. The equations are not in any doubt. What the equations mean is the part not a soul can agree on. Some very clever people say the answer truly does not exist until it is measured, and that is simply the end of the matter. Others say every possible answer really does happen, each in its own branch of reality, the world splitting quietly so that somewhere there is a version of this very room where the electron went the other way, and you only ever notice the branch you happen to be riding. Others still go hunting for some deeper layer underneath that nobody has found. These are not facts. These are stories we tell ourselves to make peace with the mathematics, and we do not know which story, if any, is the true one. So when someone tells you, with a great confident smile, that they know what is really going on down there, you keep one hand on your wallet. Because I have chewed on this as hard as anyone alive, and I will tell you straight. I think I can safely say that nobody understands quantum mechanics. But do not let that sink your spirits. Let it lift them. Step outside tonight and look up at the moon. It is huge, it is solid, it hangs right there, and you do not doubt for a heartbeat that it sits in the sky whether anyone watches it or not. And for something that big, you are completely right. All the strangeness of the very small gets averaged out, washed away, smoothed flat, by the time you pile up enough of it to make a thing the size of a moon. That is why your everyday world feels so sturdy and so sane. But that sturdiness is a kind of grand illusion, stitched together out of countless tiny events that are not sturdy in the least. Travel down far enough, all the way to the single electron crossing the wall, with no lamp lit and the answer written nowhere, and you arrive somewhere that it may be a plain mistake to imagine a little thing parked at a definite spot, being itself, waiting to be found. Down at the bottom, the world may not be a heap of facts waiting to be read off. It may be a heap of questions waiting to be asked. And the asking is not us standing around as nosy bystanders. The asking may be how a piece of reality gets decided at all. So here is what I would like from you, and not the answer you were trained to give, the one you actually believe. When that electron is on its way with no lamp lit, no record kept, and no answer anywhere in the whole wide world, is there a true hidden fact about which slit it took, kept secret from us? Or is there simply no fact there yet at all? Tell me which one you believe, and then tell me why.